Rationalizing the denominators for square roots is different than any of the other kind of roots, so I'm going to show you that first. In order to rationalize the denominator, it means you have to get the square root off of the bottom of the fraction because it's not truly simplified until it is off the bottom of the fraction. So for square roots, all you have to do is you write the numerator down like it is, so the square root of 6, and you take the number inside and pop it up top like that by multiplying. So 6 times 7. That allows you to take the square root symbol completely away. So you get the square root of 42 over 7, and that one's finished. Okay, this next one, I rewrite it as the square root of 4 over the square root of x. Now the square root of 4 is 2, so that's 2 over the square root of x. I'm just going to take this entire thing and pop it up top. So I get 2 times the square root of x. When you do that, you just take whatever's underneath and put it in the denominator. So over x. This next one, 5 over the square root of 3x. You take the entire thing and pop it up top. So 5 times the square root of 3x. That allows you whatever's underneath your radical is what stays in your denominator, 3x. Notice I'm not canceling these out each time because the square root of 3x is not the same as 3x. They're two different things. Okay, so on this one, I have 3 times the square root of 5 over the square root of 2. I'm going to pop this up top. When you do that, you're multiplying. Your denominator is what's under the radical. So you get 3 times the square root of 10 over 2. Okay, when it's not a square root, when it's any other kind of root, you have to do it a little bit differently. This is the 4th root of 81 over the 4th root of 8. I'm going to come over here and make a list of fourths so I know. 1 to the 4th power is 1. 2 to the 4th power is 16. 3 to the 4th power, 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, times 3 is 81. That's what I thought. Okay, so the 4th root of 81 is 3. So I have 3 over the 4th root of 8. Now you need, because this index tells you how many you need in order to get it out of the fraction, so you need 4 8s. So you are missing 3 of the 8s. So you're going to multiply this by the 4th root of 8 times 8 times 8. So that is the 4th root of 8 times 8 is 64. 64 times 8. $512. Alright, so the 4th root of 512, that's what's going to come up here. Whenever you do that, this came up here. Whatever is under the radical stays in your denominator. So my final answer for this one is 3 times the 4th root of 512 over 8, whatever's under your radical. So the last one wasn't totally simplified yet because I had 3 times the 4th root of 512 over 8. But the problem is, if you continue to expand the 4th roots, 256, I can do 512 divided by 256. That gives me 2. So that becomes the 4th root of 2. I already had a 3 out here, and because I used the 256, you have to put a 4 out front as well. So that's still over 8. Okay, so 3 times 4 is 12. times the fourth root of 2 over 8. But 12 over 8, remember, once you get that radical simplified, you leave it alone. But 12 over 8, you can divide those by 4. So 12 divided by 4 is 3, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. So this is the final simplified answer. So you got to be careful with simplifying them. Make sure that everything that you do is simplified all the way down. Now number 6 is much easier because conjugate means change the second sign. So this sign in the middle, you change it. Everything else stays the same. So square root of 3 minus y is the answer. This one, changing the sign in the middle, everything else stays the same. So negative 3 times the square root of 7 minus 4 times the square root of b. The reason we had to find the conjugate or teach you how to find the conjugate is because you're going to use that to rationalize a denominator when there is a binomial on the bottom. You have to multiply the top and the bottom by the conjugate. So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by 1 times the square root of 3. I'm sorry, 1 plus the square root of 3. So in the numerator on the top, 4 times 1 is 4. And 4 times the square root of 3 is a positive 4 square roots of 3 over... Okay, on this one, this is like a difference of 2 squares here. All you have to do is square the first one. So 1 times 1 is 1. A negative times a positive is a negative. And the square root of 3 times square root of 3 is the square root of 9, which is 3. So that equals negative 2. The last thing you have to do is factor if you can. I can take a 4 out of the top. So I get 1 plus the square root of 3 over, you can move the negative out front, negative 2. You're not quite finished because you leave what's in the parentheses alone, but on the outside, 4 divided by negative 2 is negative 2. So you get negative 2 and then parentheses 1 plus the square root of 3, and that one is finished. Okay, so for on the next one, the conjugate is the square root of 7 minus the square root of 6, and you've got to put that on the top too. Okay, so on the top, it's not a difference of 2 squares because the signs in the middle are both the same. So what you're going to do is you're going to do the square root of 7 minus the square root of 6 times the square root of 7 minus the square root of 6 to figure out the top part. So I get the square root of 49 minus the square root of 42 minus the square root of 42 plus the square root of 36. And all this is for the numerator. So the square root of 49 is 7. I got 2 of these, so that's minus 2 times the square root of 42 plus the square root of 36 is 6. 7 plus 6 is 13 minus 2 times the square root of 42. All right, I'm thinking through my squares, seeing if 42 will go into them. 1 squared is 1. 2 squared is 4. 42 divided by 4. Nope. 3 squared is 9. No. 16 doesn't go into it. 25. Okay, we're good. So on the bottom part, it's really easy because remember, you square the first one. A positive times a negative is a negative, and you square the last one. And the reason I'm able to do this is because I'm multiplying it by the conjugate. So that's what the conjugate does. A square and a square root cancel out. So I get 7 minus square and a square root cancel out 6. 7 minus 6 is 1. But you don't want to put a 1 on the bottom of the fraction. So you have your final answer. 13 minus 2 times the square root of 42. Okay, on the last one, you multiply the bottom by the conjugate. So 1 minus the square root of 6. You have to also multiply the top by that. Okay, so 7 times 1 is 7. 7 times negative square root of 6 is negative 7 square root of 6 over 1 squared plus, I'm sorry, it's minus because a positive times a negative is a negative, minus the square root of 6 squared. So you get 1 minus square root of 6, square root and square cancel out. You got a negative 5 on the bottom of that. The only thing is you have to factor the top to make it simplified. So you get 7 and in the parentheses 1 minus the square root of 6 over negative 5. So technically I didn't even need to, all I had to do to rationalize the top is just put them together. So this is the answer to that one.